Now to Iran and the protests there, which are getting louder and younger. Take a look at this video from a pro-reform Iranian news outlet. Girls in Tehran throwing off their mandatory hijabs, and these brave junior high school students who walked out of class chanting "Death to the dictator," as Iran's supreme leader claims the United States is behind the, quote, riot. CNN's Caitlin Collins is at the White House for us. And Caitlin, President Biden says he's, quote, gravely concerned about the violent crackdowns by the Iranian government on these protesters. Is the White House planning on more concrete action than some sanctions in that statement?
Well, they are expecting to do more sanctions this week, Jake. Of course, the full scope of that remains to be seen. In his statement yesterday, President Biden just said we should expect to see action this week. And I am told by a source familiar that that will come in the form of sanctions on law enforcement officials, on those directly involved in the crackdown on these protests that are sweeping Iran, as you've seen. And, Jake, that would come after sanctions already on the morality police in Iran and other actions that the United States has tried to take to try to restore communications there so people can get online, so it can be widespread what is actually happening on the ground there. That last part is a bit more of a struggle. But, Jake, it is notable to see the White House speaking out as quickly as they are now, because it appears to be a lesson learned from a lot of the officials who are working for the Biden administration that worked for the Obama administration 13 years ago when in 2009 protests were sweeping Iran. And you saw a much different response because officials then were actually hesitant to speak out publicly and back the demonstrators because they were worried, they said, that it would be counterproductive. But then, of course, you see people like Jake Sullivan, who is now the national security advisor here in the Biden administration, saying that they've basically learned the lesson that it's better to speak out now. It's better to be more forceful and more clear early on about what's happening and about the support that they have for these demonstrators. That's what you've seen President Biden do, as he did at the United Nations in New York. That's what he's done in the statement yesterday. So it remains to be seen what the full scope of these sanctions are going to look like, Jake, and where it goes from there, what kind of effect it has on the negotiations they were trying to put together to revive the Iran nuclear deal. But you are seeing a much different response now than you were back in 2009. Of course, how that actually ends up remains to be seen.
All right, Caitlin Collins at the White House for us. Thanks so much.